Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 came out October 4th, 2007, and really changed the way that I looked at PlayStation 2 games when I was a kid. Myself and a lot of people were really excited that Christmas year to sit there and get presents on Christmas, open it up, and what they get? It was Tenkaichi 3. See, this game is regarded to be one of the best games of the PlayStation 2 era, especially since it was coming out towards the end of the PlayStation 2's lifespan, given the fact that the PlayStation 3 had come out like a year beforehand. See, if you had the Wii port of this game, you were especially lucky because you got to play this game online. For kids like myself, who had it on the PlayStation 2, you kind of just had to invite a friend over, have a second remote, and just throw hands right then and there. It wasn't really, online wasn't really an option, you know, you had to play it on couch co-op, which was fine, that was fine. Now, Tenkaichi 3 had a lot of stuff that you could do, right? If you had copies of Tenkaichi 1 and Tenkaichi 2, you could insert them into your PlayStation 2 when prompted in Tenkaichi 3 and do disc fusion, which can unlock like exclusive modes in Tenkaichi 3, which is already in itself kind of cool, you know, rewards people for playing the previous two games. That's pretty dope. Now, this is before Xenoverse 2 and stuff like that, obviously, so there was a lot of replaying the Dragon Ball story that admittedly we were kind of getting sick of around that time, because a lot of the Dragon Ball games back then were just freaking play through the Dragon Ball story with Goku again for like the 200th time, and at that point we were like, we know the Dragon Ball story, we played it 500 times, but whatever. Basically, there's a story mode, you know. Now, it's cool that they have an entire saga dedicated to what if fights and stuff like that. So they did in fact keep things interesting. You were also able to end fights quicker than expected or die and lead to different alternate endings during the story mode. So it's not as black and white as I made it seem, but it's still pretty cool, you know? Now, of course, this is before Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Diamond, any of that stuff. So the farthest that Dragon Ball went into that game was Dragon Ball GT, but it was still pretty awesome. It was also back in the time when PlayStation 2 games were still pretty experimental. There was a mode inside of Tenkaichi 3 called Dragon Sim, and I think I was part of the 1% that actually enjoyed that mode and kind of missed seeing it in Sparking Zero. That mode's pretty fun. I like RPG aspects and stuff like that, so that was a cool little thing that they added in there, a neat little thing to keep you busy, right? Obviously, they had World Tournament modes, versus modes, customizations, the encyclopedia, stuff like that. Basically, this is one of the best Dragon Ball games to ever release, and it really set a standard for what people wanted later on into the lifespan of Dragon Ball games to begin with, right? This game really set a standard, and it really set a bar, and a very high bar too. Not a lot of people really expected Dragon Ball games to surpass this bar since it was pretty high up. This game was pretty freaking good, but we expected it to at least be pretty close to it, you know? Even if you're gonna cut some stuff, cut just a little bit of stuff, which of course led people to sit there and wonder, oh man, when is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4 gonna be like? When is that gonna come out? That's gonna be even better than this game. Since every Tenkaichi game was better than the previous, we only expected naturally a pretty good upgrade. Now, while we had not really gotten a Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4, we did in fact get the Raging Blast series on the PlayStation 3. Now, Raging Blast, it was more of like a spiritual successor, and it was pretty good. You know, there was some stuff missing, like, you know, the Super Saiyan 4's GT stuff. There was some movie stuff missing. Combat in that game felt like really, I don't know how else to say, but it felt like really stiff, you know? I don't know if anyone else ever felt this way, but it felt really stiff. It was pretty cool that they added Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Broly, so, you know, there was some exclusivity and stuff like that with Raging Blast series. So they had people sitting there wanting to go back to it. Now, at the time of recording this, Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2 is the only game to let you sit there and play as Hachiok from the Dragon Ball OVA Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans, and I believe it is the only game to let you play as Tarble, Vegeta's younger brother, which is really cool because it goes back to the whole exclusivity thing that I was talking about. If you want to play as Hachiok or if you want to play as Tarble, it gives you a reason to dust off your old PlayStation and to plug in Raging Blast 2 because, well, that's the only game that those characters are on, and that's pretty cool. They're not game-breaking characters, but they're decently fun to play with, you know? Raging Blast 2 suffered from the same bad luck that Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 suffered. Everyone was like, well, when's the next one gonna come out? The next one's gonna be freaking awesome. There never was a next one. And that sucks because Raging Blast, you know, deserves more love than what it's gotten. It's been a pretty decent game. It's held it down for a few years, when especially during the Dragon Ball drought of the early 2010s, but they kind of held it down a little bit, until October 11th, 2024. We had finally gotten Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. See, now in Japan, the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series was called Dragon Ball Sparking. Here in America, it was Budokai Tenkaichi. Personally, I would have kept the whole 2 different names on the 2 different regions thing to make it sound cool, but whatever. So, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is, in fact, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 4. We've waited almost 20 years for this game, and it's finally come out. And needless to say, people's expectations were extremely high, since, it's the freaking team that did Tenkaichi 3 coming back, and they're doing Sparking Zero. So people were like, finally, we're going to get peak. And that's the problem. I feel like maybe we set our expectations a little too high, because frankly, I feel kind of disappointed with Sparking Zero. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is beautiful, the game is gorgeous, the game plays great. Again, I can't drive it home. That game is freaking gorgeous, but here's what ruins the game for me. It's dumb little stuff like, for example, the what if characters not being playable, like early Vegeta with Super Saiyan, early Goku with Super Saiyan, freaking Gohan Black. They are not playable at all. Why is that? You could have at least made it that once you pass that part in the story mode, you unlock them and now they're playable, but like, no, it's not even like, why? They're really, at this point in the game's lifespan, there's really no excuse for them to not be playable. Some of the exclusivity of that game really got freaking toned down as well, and it like almost is non-existent. Now there's a pre-order bonus that gives you Dragon Ball Daima Goku, but it's like pre-debut of Daima, so it's just Goku smacking you a bunch with the power pole, and his moves are just nothing but rushes, which is very underwhelming. A lot of people wanted Ultra Ego Vegeta to be a pre-order bonus, or Moro. Now we understand the whole legal dispute going on with Shueisha and all that stuff, so we knew it wasn't really too possible, but we thought it was a little possible, because if you play with Vegeta in the game, you actually take a small look at his moveset. He has a manga move on Vegeta that we've never seen him do in the anime, and that's Gamma Burst Flash. Actually, if I look and remember correctly, Goku Black also has one of his manga moves, which is like a God Bind. They're putting manga moves into the game, but not giving us manga characters. I don't know if this is something that they're just like spoon feeding us slowly, or like sprinkle feeding us, but it's really kind of underwhelming, especially since a lot of people love Ultra Ego Vegeta. People are begging for Moro in some sort of fashion to be in Dragon Ball media besides the manga, and we aren't getting that. And it seems like the DLC for Sparking Zero is kind of underwhelming too. We got Beast Gohan, who's pretty much a Gohan version of Ultra Instinct Goku without the auto dodges. Orange Piccolo just seems like a Piccolo version of Beast Gohan. And Cell Max, he's kind of underwhelming as well, and the Gammas, I'm gonna be honest, they kind of suck a little bit. That's really about it, really. There's not really much to go about it. As of recording this, the Daima DLC has not come out yet, so I can't really say much about that, but unless they come out with Super Saiyan 4, then, my opinion on it is gonna be kind of bland. Now, Sparking Zero is not linked to any other Dragon Ball game. What I mean by that, for example, freaking Xenoverse 2 and Dragon Ball The Breakers are both linked to each other. They're like a shared universe. You can use each game to launch up the other, stuff like that. So it kind of makes Sparking Zero feel a little disconnected, I guess you could say. Now, there are some annoying people who look at Sparking Zero and say, hey, if there's not any CACs in this game, I don't want it. Now, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi and Dragon Ball Sparking has never been the type of series to sit there and add CACs to this stuff. That's always been Xenoverse thing. That's always been their gimmick, their shtick, right? That's never been a thing for Tenkaichi series or for Sparking Zero. That's never been a thing for them. I will say, however, if they did say, hey, Sparking Zero is coming out in 3 months, and they drop a trailer showing you can make CACs, that would have been incredible. Not gonna lie, that would have made me pretty damn hype. But did I expect them to do that? No, not really. I'm perfectly fine playing with my main Super Saiyan Gogeta, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's never really bugged me, But just the whole people writing the game off just because it doesn't have CACs has always been kind of, dumb. It's always rubbed me the wrong way. Now, in terms of offline content, this game admittedly underwhelmed me, and it's disappointing to say so, because yeah, there's a story. We can go through the traditional story. There's a crazy amount of what if stuff in that game. The difficulty curve is pretty hard. It's actually been a meme that when people first started up this game, that they kind of got bodied by Great Ape Vegeta, and I think that's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, especially because I was one of those people. That dude beat the hell out of me. But when it comes to like offline content or single player content, there's the story mode and then there's like the custom battle mode. The custom battle mode being that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero took a page out of Dragon Ball Heroes World Missions book and decided to let you create your own missions, create your own scenario and stuff like that. You can post it online, people download it and play your mission. That's cool, that's great. You're adding the whole creativity thing with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, a lot more customization and stuff like that. That's great. That adds replayability. That's a fantastic step forward. However, with that mode, there's so much limitations. There's so many characters you can bring on there at once. There's only a few animations you can put there at once. You can't type out your own dialogue. You can only have specific maps. You can only have specific characters. There's weird NPC characters that can only be in there for specific scenes and stuff like that. Like, it kind of sucks, and you can't even really use the what if characters as well. Even though their complete sets of moves are in the game, their battle animations are there, the character models are there, they're there, but you just can't access them. This game caters heavily towards PvP, and if you don't like PvP, then really you're just gonna be like me. You're gonna play the game, and I got the platinum trophy for Sparking Zero as well. Get the platinum, and then really you're just done. That's really it. I haven't touched Sparking Zero in kind of forever, and it sucks because I've waited so long for this game. But by far the most disappointing and most frustrating thing about Sparking Zero are the people online that play it. Let me explain this to you. If you load up Dragon Ball Sparking Zero right now and you were to go online to play the game, you are going to run into nothing but Ultra Instinct Gokus, Beast Gohans, Super Saiyan 4 Gogetas, and whatever busted characters there are. I've seen a few Super Saiyan Gotenks that cheese matches completely. That's all you're ever going to run into is nothing but cheesers in PvP modes and stuff like that. I understand the game devs said they didn't want to balance the game too much to leave it kind of chaotic like how Tenkaichi 3 is, but there's a difference between having your Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta be so strong he wipes out Krillin, and just having your UI Goku be so busted that he has a rush move that teleports to you instantly from across the map. Doesn't dash to you really fast and make it hard to like dodge or anything. No, he teleports to you instantly to where you are. It's an unblockable move, and when you do that move you get sent flying. And just as an extra middle finger to you, if he has enough ki, he can do that move again after hitting you with the first one, and it will connect again. So you'll get hit with that move twice, and it does an astronomical amount of damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Stuff like that happening in PvP, that is not cool. I've made my stance on cheesers and Sparking Zero pretty clear before on my Twitter, which by the way, go follow me on Twitter at XenoKonosuke. I've made my stance on this with cheesers before. If I play you in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and you cheese the fight, I am extremely petty. I will message you on PlayStation. I will bait you into crashing out, and then I'll report you and get you banned for like a good month. Because like, dude, I've waited almost 20 years for this game. I've waited too damn long for this game. You're not going to sit here and just completely ruin this game for me like that. It sucks that I have to be so scummy like that. But I'm like, dude, I've waited so long for this game. You're not going to sit here and destroy it like that, you know? Quick little plug here. Just wanted to let you guys know I relaunched my Patreon account. So if you guys want to donate to the channel, help support me and what I do here on YouTube, since YouTube doesn't pay my ass, feel free to do so. Entirely optional, of course. No pressure. Go check it out. I think you'll like it. Look, man, in conclusion, all I want to say is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is a bit of a disappointment. Now, they can fix the game. It's not too late for them to fix the game. The combat is pretty good, you know. The characters feel good to play as. Each character feels nice and all that. Although that y'all could put some, you know, some free updates out there to, you know, add some of the alt colors that was in Tenkaichi 3. You know, like the super famous Super Saiyan 5 Gogeta one, you know, stuff like that. Or even if you were to come out with like a, you know, a $5 pack that you buy and you get all the alt colors, kind of like how they did with the music pack, you know. I don't know, something, you know. Just the game hasn't had content in a good while. I feel like it's slowly dying out, and that the Daima DLC and other stuff that they're pumping out for it really isn't enough to keep the community there. Just, please do that. Please do that. And it's a good game. I've waited for it for such a long time, but I'm disappointed with it. I really am. And it's heartbreaking to say so. And like I said, if I see you online and you're freaking cheesing me in a fight, I'm baiting you into crashing out, and I'm gonna get you banned for a week, you son of a bitch.